When I start hearing people like Simon Harris saying, "Oh, there's no issue with regional imbalance," it really makes my blood boil. That we down here who pay the same taxes as others across this state, but cannot seem to benefit from the same services and the same infrastructure.
Simon Harris took great offence at Marion Harkin's suggestion in the Dáil that there was no balanced regional development, and it was less so now than ever before, and that the Northwest. You're sighing and shaking.
I just wonder where these people are. Did they ever get out of that Greater Dublin bubble? When I hear stuff like this, they need to get out here. Need to come down to the west and northwest.
Well, you've been canvassing across a huge area, as we know. And
let's start with the facts, Niall. The facts are this, right? Is that there are 234 regions in the European Union, and that's from Ireland to Portugal to Italy, all over the Bulgarian, Latvia, across 27 countries. Of those 234 regions, the West and Northwest region is 218th in terms of infrastructure. There are only 16 regions worse off than us in terms of infrastructure, and that's roads, rails, ports and airports in what is effectively the old Connacht Ulster, the five Connacht counties in Donegal, Cavan and Monaghan. And that is not Chris MacManus or Sinn Féin making up facts. These are EU statistics. The EU has graded us going backwards as to being a region in transition. I have seen reports coming from the Parliament calling this region a development trap, calling us a region that is lagging. Again, this is not me scoring political points for Sinn Féin. These are real facts. And when I start hearing people like Simon Harris saying, "Oh, there's no issue with regional imbalance," it really makes my blood boil. That we down here who pay the same taxes as others across this state, but cannot seem to benefit from the same services and the same infrastructure, that's taken for granted.
Yeah, but do you as an MEP, and your colleagues, do you all not have to share in that responsibility? What have you done in the last 5 years to change matters?
Hold on. First of all, I'm probably the only MEP that's actually has consistently talked about addressing regional imbalance, that's talked about issues like the N17, that's talked about the Western Rail Corridor. And I noticed in this last number of weeks other MEPs and candidates suddenly now finding this to be an issue because they're hearing about it. People want infrastructure. People want infrastructure along the Atlantic Economic Corridor area. We have the potential to be a great region. But what we need is government to make political decisions. And that's what it is. It's political decisions. I've been in with the Commissioner for Regional Development, and I've talked to her and explained to her about how our region is very much on the back foot in regards to state. And what they tell me is this: our door is ajar, but we need the member state government and the Irish government in this case, to push it open and to tell us what the priorities are. And they're not hearing that. The transport infrastructure at a European level is prioritised by what's known as the 10T network. And according to the EU 10T network, the Dublin-Belfast corridor and the Dublin to Cork corridor are the ones that are prioritised. There is no reference to an Atlantic Economic Corridor there, which means that we cannot access proper core EU funding in that regard. So political decisions need to be made. There's been successive decades of neglect of our region, and it has to stop. When I see that counties like Donegal have the lowest disposable income in the state, 2.5 times less than what they have in somewhere like Dublin, we have to start asking ourselves questions. And people like Simon Harris need to take their head out.
All right, okay. I don't.
Go back to the point that you said earlier on. What have I been doing as an MEP? I brought the chair of the Regional Development Committee over here last summer, and we toured from Galway up through Donegal. And while he was pleased to see quite a number of projects that the EU had funded, when he's seen things like rail corridors lying idle at a time when we're trying to be upgrading public transport, he was incredulous to this. Couldn't get his head around the fact that we were there with potential positive transport infrastructure, and yet we were leaving it lying fallow. So I can clearly stand on my record as an MEP for the last 4 years in promoting and banging the drum for the West and the Northwest, and I want to continue to do that after June 7th.
Lots and lots of comments coming in.